Hey there gamers, Mark the Lone Gamer here, and welcome to our Lightwielder 100th episode special. Of course, this isn't the 100th episode, this is the episode after the 100th episode, and this is not actually part of the storyline. This is our special tribute video to Arius of Lightwielder. Aries Valorus, our Cleric of Arkay, who is very special in a way, in a very special way, of course. I'm speaking over and over. Yes, I cannot speak right now very well because, as I mentioned, I guess earlier, real life has been pretty busy, but every time that I get work is a good thing because, of course, perhaps I've told you once or twice, I actually work from home. I'm no longer part of the rat race, or I don't go to an office or an agency anymore. I work at home. I'm a freelance artist. And, well, for the most part, I'm doing pretty well. I don't spend as much as I do. But, of course, you still have to try and get some work in every time. So, whenever an opportunity comes, and it does come fairly regularly, I have to take that chance. The opportunity, because, we need to pay the bills. And because YouTube won't. Well, on the one side, it's good because we don't have to rely on YouTube because they are not reliable. On the other, well, it just I don't have as much stress as other channels. I have a fairly small but sizable following here with at last count about 3,500 subscribers, though I'm fairly sure that most of those are either lapsed or dormant. I don't know how many are actually active. Yes, Lucian, you're a bit of a, your voice carries. Alright, now, while Arius and Lucian are having a bit of a break after their very long foray into Host, we can have a moment's peace and learn a bit more about our Cleric of Arkay. I did say that, and he took our chair. Huh. I have to admit, seriously, the Lucian mod is awesome. It's actually very, very good. Almost at par with Inigo. If only that that mod Inigo wasn't being used for Starbow, I'd probably get Inigo for Arius here. Though I am a bit making at the point that in some ways Lightwielder is connected to Starbow, and that's why I don't want either one to get the other companion mod. That's not really a set rule, but yeah, whatever. Yeah. So, I did promise that this would be a special episode. We would do a bit of a question and answer for Arius here, and it's something that I haven't really done before. I have done a special video before for during the time when I was still very early in the channel, well, relatively, with the role plays, I guess. That was for my first role play, which was my mage role play, which was coming a mage story. That was a long time ago, because I actually started my YouTube channel in 2009. 2009. But I only started doing Skyrim roleplays in 2014. And Skyrim was released 2011. So a bit late, a bit of a late bloomer. But then it took several years before Skyrim actually became a game that was very much used as a role-play device. Or maybe I'm just not seeing a lot of the older ones, the older role plays. But in any case, I started doing my role plays when I was inspired by Gopher and Sorcerer Dave and Damo 2968. I'm hoping that I remembered his name right. It's Damo. He was awesome role player, and a friend of ours here on YouTube has the most awesome voice. Makes him sound like a wizard. No matter what character he's playing, he sounds like a wizard. Yeah. So here we are. We've got several role-playing series under our belt. However, we have here Lightwielder, one of our most recent, newest role-plays. But it is our first role-play that has reached 100 episodes, which is a bit special because all my other series have not reached 100. I did finish. There was one series which I actually finished. I mean, I got to the last. The main quest. I finished the main quest. I basically finished the story, and that was for my Khajiit Bard character, Zephyr. The series is called A Song of Ice and Fur, which I hope that some of you newcomers here to the channel check out, or will check out, or have checked out, because I think it's pretty awesome, pretty cool. I think I do a good Khajiit voice. I think it's the one character voice that I can really do a reasonably good voice for. But I digress. We're talking about Lightwielder here, and because we reached 100 episodes, it actually is kind of amazing, at least for me, because this is a new character, a new role play. And when did it start? I think it started a year ago, and I forget who. I hope that if you remember who you were here in the channel, in the comments, if you remember who you were, do shout out in the comments in this video if you can. But someone did, or at least several people requested that I do a cleric roleplay, and this was the result. And the story is that, from the very beginning, from the first video, I did a prelude video, which was almost 30 minutes. And the story with that video is I just threw myself into that video, just like I always do. I didn't have much plans for it. I was pretty much winging it the whole time. And for some reason, I just thought, why not have him have this weird quirk that he's talking to Arkay, or at least he thinks he's talking to Arkay. Admittedly, it's very much like the character Laurentius in Dawnguard, who does the same thing. But I was thinking that it would set a precedent. Maybe it means that Arkay is particularly someone, or one of the divines, that actually does that, rather than having another divine do it. Maybe Arkay is that particular member of the divines that is especially close to his followers. So maybe an aspect of Arkay is tasked with contacting special individuals to carrying out tasks. Or maybe they're just a lot of crazy people who think that Arkay is talking to them. But, well. So, that's how it happened. And I just did that. I voiced it, and the prologue or the prelude video turned out pretty awesome. And we got this really awesome music or a song from our most awesome music source here on YouTube, Windswept. That just, I think, is probably the best fitting song for a roleplay series I've had the pleasure of just walking into or bungling myself into, because the song that we use, the theme song for the series, The Last Stand, is awesome. I mean, I think it just gives the series that flavor, that tone that is simply perfect. I mean, aside from it being an awesome song, an awesome fantasy Celtic tune, it just fits. So, after that, we just went along with the series, and for some reason, Lightwielder turned out to be pretty popular, and even into the dozens of episodes. When roleplays move along, as we've seen, viewership usually tapers off. But thankfully for Lightwielder in particular, there's always been a very consistent viewership, and I wish there was more. There could always be more, but there's enough always that it just keeps you going, and it keeps the series going. And I just want to thank you all for staying with the character and showing your love for the character, because he is quite a bit of a character. He is very fun to voice. He is very... what to you? Oh, he's very fun to voice. He's very fun to play. We could have gone, of course, when we started off with when I stated cleric, we would do a cleric roleplay. There were several ways of going about it. One thing, if we went with literal priest of Arkay, he would have been a restoration mage, basically, and the character would have been just, we would have to have him just wearing a cloak, or not a cloak, a robes. We would have to have him wearing the Arkay, a priest of Arkay robes, specifically just those. We could have him maybe using a weapon, a one-handed weapon, but he should be wearing only the robes, and he would be specializing in restoration magic, which would still make him pretty formidable, given that restoration is pretty kick-ass with Ordinator. And but you know, I mean, that could have been a way of doing it, but I thought, in hindsight, I guess that would have just made it more or less just a mage playthrough. And we can, if we're going to do a mage playthrough, we'll do a proper mage. Someday I'll do a proper mage playthrough. But this is a cleric, and I'm fairly sure when people requested a cleric, this is what we were thinking. All of us were thinking. The classic D&D cleric, which is an armored guy with a mace and a shield who uses spells, healing or very powerful spells whether it's for defense, whether it's for healing, or other things to call down the wrath of their god, something. And that's why, or why we eventually resulted in Arius here, who is almost more a paladin in how he has become, because the way I play my characters, I really turn them into one-man armies, fully armored. You have to give them enchanting and smithing, because we have to do that to give them good equipment, or the best equipment, because you won't find good equipment in Skyrim. You have to make your own. And the way that we've turned out, Arius here is a master of heavy armor, one-handed, and block, and just that pretty much makes him an amazing tank. You can wade into enemies, crowds of enemies, and you can just take punishment like hell. But then you add restoration magic with Ordinator, and he can really lay down punishment, because he can heal himself while killing his enemies, and that is, I think it's pretty OP. Whoa! Alright. What's going on? Why are we... Right. But, that all said, he is not invincible. I am very happy that somehow the game, with all our mods, including enemy mods such as organized bandits of Skyrim, deadly dragons, and other mods, we've been able to balance it out. And since we are playing on legendary right now, Arius can still very easily get killed. Especially, I think, magic. For some reason, even though I have worked very hard to give him every defense except probably for poison and maybe water breathing. I mean, he's pretty much, as someone posted a long time ago, he's the Tony Stark, the Iron Man of Skyrim, because he has pretty much everything. He's defended against everything, and he has stuff to throw or use. He's pretty powerful, and I'm proud of that. But he can still die, as we've seen along the way. He can still get killed. There's some ways, even physically. Enemies like high-level bandits can still chip through his armor with physical weapons. And magic is particularly dangerous. Anyway, I think suffice to say, I'm really happy with how Arius has turned out as a gameplay factor, or the gameplay aspect is involved or being taken up. Yes, sit down in the chair, Lucian. Arius wasn't wanting to sit down anyway. So, that aside, let's move on to the next phase of what we're talking about here, about our hero. Of course, Lightwielder, the title came from the perk in Restoration, which is from Ordinator. It's not an original perk or a default perk. That's where our title came from, in case you, some of you don't know. It's Lightwielder. So it's a perk that increases false light damage. Um, False light is the perk that pretty much makes Arius deadly, because this allows him to cast targeted healing spells on enemies to inflict damage. And come to think of it, in a way, False Light could have been an alternate title. But maybe that would be giving away a bit too much. Anyway, it's Lightwielder, and because a lot of his spells look like he's wielding light, or it's about, generally it describes the hero, who basically is a follower of the priest, or the god of the sun, or the god of life and death. And speaking of the god of light and death, why did he choose, or why did I choose Arkay to be his patron deity? That's something that a lot of you have asked. I think in particular it was Shadow Walker. I mean, several of you did ask that. Shadow Walker asked, why did he devote himself to Arkay in the first place? And there was, where else? Well, Shadow Walker is the one. Some of the others also kind of asked it, but anyway. So why Arkay? Well, as Arius has probably he has mentioned in more recent episodes, one does not always choose the divine or the god they worship. The gods choose them. I think that was the line, or something to that effect. And the thing is that Arius here, yeah, he was chosen by Arkay because he is special. As we all know, of course, by now, and it's fairly obvious, and even Arius himself knows, Arius is Dragonborn. So that means he is possessed of the blood of dragons, which is a gift from Akatosh. Yes, I do know a bit of the lore, just a bit. I'm not a lore hound like a lot of people are. I'm not very much into lore, but I at least know some of those things. Now, being a Dragonborn, we can assume that he is special. He has the potential to do stuff. That he is Dragonborn, I think, is an in-game explanation of why he is able to do the things that he can do. That is, learn things very quickly, master things very quickly. Aside from the whole shouting and devouring of souls thing, a lot of his abilities all around are explained by him being Dragonborn. And because he is Dragonborn, he is also closer to the divines, because he is not a normal human. And because of that, the divines, or Arkay at the very least, or in particular, has chosen to speak to him, to directly influence him to carry out the mission. And what is that mission? We'll get to that. In any case, that's it. Yeah, it's just that Arkay chose him because he's Dragonborn, and maybe they had a bit of a arrangement or an agreement between Akatosh and Arkay, because there is a great danger threatening all of Mundus, all of Tamriel, and they wanted to move to have a foolproof, or at least a really directed way of dealing with that threat, short of just screaming to the populace, because the Dragonborn kings of Cyrodiil are gone. They had to turn to the Dragonborns who are unaligned, who are just in the field out at large, and our Arius here is one of them. And somehow, perhaps it was with luck, that Arius in particular was given to being very religious, and that opened him up to joining the priesthood. And as he joined the priesthood, he was contacted. He became a conduit to Arkay, or at least an aspect of Arkay, who began speaking to him. And after a period of panic, of fear, abject terror, there came eventually acceptance, perhaps pride and realization of what was happening, and maybe even a bit going over the edge, because you cannot speak to a divine, to a god, I think, without losing a bit of your sanity. And so Arkay got his soldier. He got Aries here, and that was it. He had his pawn, so to speak. Now, before we go to there, where did Arius grow up? What was his childhood like? I think that was asked by someone else. The glitchy one, he asked, what was his childhood like and how old is he? Well, Arius, I think, is in his 30s. I don't want him to be too young, and he doesn't look very young. He actually looks like he's been through shit. But I don't want him to be old either. So he's in his early to mid 30s. I think that means that he was very young when the Alberi Dominion attacked Cyrodiil, and that was during the Great War. So he didn't fight in the Great War. He was a child then, and he grew up after it was over. And where did he grow up? What was his childhood like? He was adopted. He was one of the children. He was found as a refugee by an imperial family who adopted him. So we don't know who exactly his parents are, but he was adopted by an imperial family, and we can assume that he is of imperial race. And that family was the Valoruses of Cyrodiil, a very wealthy family. And because of that, he grew up in a very comfortable household. I think that is only proper for someone who speaks the way he does. He does have more or less high or at least cultured way of speaking. He does not speak like he is lowborn or that he was from a very mean background. However, because since he was adopted, he was not eligible to inherit the family business that went to the family's actual children. So Arius himself, he was loved by the family. He grew up in a very loving household, but he had to recognize that since he was adopted, he would not be inheriting the family business. He'd actually not be getting anything much. I'm not entirely sure if that's the way adoption works in Tamriel, and frankly, I don't really think it matters. But in any case, because of that, he was open to doing something else, And since Arius was particularly close to his adoptive mother, who was a very religious person, he decided to become a priest. Because, of course, having a priest in the family is something, is a proud thing, something to be proud of for any family. So he applied for the priesthood, and he was recognized for having very, very strong talents in magic, in restoration. So he joined, he became an acolyte, and was promptly contacted by the voice of Arkay. And from there on, he eventually started changing. He still, of course, loves his family, and they're still around, actually. They're still in Cyrodiil. But when he fully committed himself to becoming Arkay's missionary and an adventuring cleric, who would never hold a temple or a hall of the dead, at least until his mission is over, he was told that he would have to leave Cyrodiil because his mission was elsewhere. And so he just left in the night, leaving a note for his family. And since then, he's not been back to Cyrodiil. And all that time, in the years prior to him arriving in Skyrim, he's been adventuring throughout various regions of Tamriel. He's been hunting down necromancers and black mages, clearing tombs, clearing ruins of undead, healing the sick and stuff. Just being an all-around very good hero type adventurer. In fact, that he eventually got a bit of a reputation. Such so that the Knights of the Circle, the military arm of the Church of Arkay, has actually been sent out to apprehend him, because the Patriarch of the Church of Arkay really wants to know why he is going around doing what he's doing without the buyer leave of the temples, hunting down necromancers and such. But of course, Aries here doesn't really care. He's actually not aware that he's being hunted. He still thinks that he's doing the temple's bidding, or because he is actually doing the mission given to him by Arkay. But before the knights could find him, of course, Arkay directed him to roads where they would not find him, and eventually those roads would lead him to Skyrim. And that's where our story here in this roleplay begins. So the glitchy one, I hope that answers your question. The next questions are: Fabian King asked, what direction do you intend to take with the character? You know what? These kinds of questions, unfortunately, will entail a lot of spoilers, so we can't really answer these type of questions safely or thoroughly, because of course we don't want to give away everything. But alright, for the most part, I think it's pretty obvious. Arius will do the main quest. He's doing the companion's quest. We've already done the mage quest. I'm fairly sure we will inevitably do Dawnguard. After that, we'll see what else we could do. I want him to do a bit of Heartfire, but that's further down the line. And maybe we can do some mod quests. I mean, someone here was pointing me to the direction of the Vigilant mod. We'll see. I mean, I'm not closing it out or saying no to stuff. I just don't want to just throw in large mods at this point. We have a fairly long mod list and we are very stable at this point. I don't want to rock the boat. I want this to be stable, and the game is very stable thanks to our switching to Windows 7 and ditching that product of the devil called Windows 10. Because Windows 10 is, of course, the OS that where cataclysmic crashes have occurred very regularly, causing the destruction of a lot of our previous role plays. A lot of them were very awesome role plays, I have to say. But hopefully the role plays we have now and those coming in the future will somehow finish them or carry them out or keep them going because of the stability of our OS. Okay, let's move on. Kemsaray asked, does he have any kids from his previous life before devoting to Arkay? No. I think it's fairly obvious no. He has... In fact, right now he is still a virgin. He has not laid with a woman. He has been devoted to Arkay from the very beginning. Well, not from the very beginning. From his teenage years, or even before teenage years. I'm fairly sure that he is he's interested in women. He doesn't like men in that way. So because he is close to his mother, you'd think that he can be very close to either men and women. But yeah, he is more attracted to women. I guess he could probably swing the other way, but no, he likes women. I think that's fairly obvious as well. Balthazar21 asks, you have to tell the story of how he first heard Arkay speak to him and how he reacted. I think I've mentioned that. I think the better way probably to have related this was to have Arius actually relate it himself. Maybe we'll do that eventually in the game, but I think we've said it already. Arius, Arkay just started talking to him as he was an acolyte, and it pretty much drove him a bit crazy. He was frightened, he was terrorized, he thought he was crazy, and in a way it might have made him crazy, because eventually he just snapped and accepted it, and because he was a bit, he's a very religious person, a very devout person, he just rolled with it eventually. I think you have to be a bit crazy if you're this character, just like Laurentius is, but it's a benevolent or benign type of crazy. He will never be a homicidal or psychotic person. He is just eccentric at the very worst. He can be described as very weird, at best eccentric. But at least he is by all in all intents and purposes, he is harmless in terms of being crazy, except when he's fighting enemies, of course, because as a fanatical follower of the divine that he is following, he will kill whoever Arkay directs him to. He might be a bit conflicted, but he will do it. Okay, what else? Okay, Nicholas Vasen. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Nicholas is one of our newer subscribers, and he has a lot of questions. He has a block of text for his questions. And I have to say, Nicholas, I am totally happy that you posted all those questions. A lot of them I cannot answer because they are spoilery. But let's see what we can answer. So, what did Arius want to do before dedicating himself to Arkay? Well, as I've said, he was an adopted son of that wealthy imperial family. He just wanted to be a good son. Maybe if he wasn't contacted by Arkay, if he wasn't a Dragonborn who is instrumental or who is destined to become an instrument of the gods, he'd probably be an assistant to his parents or to the sibling. He has several who ends up inheriting the business, and he'll just be there, just be a good son, very unassuming. Maybe that's all that he'll ever be. A bit of a waste of a Dragonborn, if you ask me. What does he intend to do after the Dragon Priests are killed off? Does he expect to live through it all, including fighting Aldwin? I think that entails spoilers, so we can't answer that. Does he want to marry? Will he remain alone? What is his feelings toward Lydia? Alright. Arius, as I said, Arius is, up to now, he is devoted to Arkay and his mission. And yes, I don't think that he has. I think the way he speaks, I think Arius is a bit of an optimistic person, but he is also a realist. I think he has an idea of what he's facing. He's pretty much going to be thrown against evil gods, and because of that, well, at least at first, maybe he thought that he was going to die inevitably, but since he's become so powerful at this point, I think maybe he's thinking that maybe there is a chance that he could survive. Maybe. And as I've said, he is interested in women, if he was ever interested. At this point, though, Arkay is a fickle master. I can't say mistress. I think it would be hard for him to concentrate on being attracted to a woman, knowing that Arkay is basically hovering over him, always there, and maybe might suddenly barge into him or talk to him. I mean, he'd be there cuddling with his girl, and suddenly, Arius, and whatever. I don't know if that's the way Arkay talks. But if he was going to entertain thoughts, I mean, there's Uthgerd and there's Lydia. And I'd say with Uthgerd, he's not attracted to her in that way, even though our Uthgerd here in this game, thanks to our mods, she looks amazing. She doesn't look like the kind of leathery battle axe that she is in the default game. But his first contact with Uthgerd was a fist fight. And I think whenever he thinks about Uthgerd, the first thing that comes to mind is blood, the taste of blood in his mouth.
Just a scratch.
Now, Arkay, you're sure this woman would make a fine asset to us? I mean, it's not the easiest thing. Oh, she is strong.
It's nothing.
Uh-oh.
You think I'm afraid of him? That's the best you can do.
Alright. Come on. I have faith. My faith in my God gives me strength.
And I don't think that's very attractive. Now, I think it's also been demonstrated in several occasions that he is very attracted to Lydia. Because our Lydia is gorgeous. Lydia. So, are you fine? Well, I hope you had. I mean, the acoustics in this place is pretty good. Anyway, we're going to Solstheim to kill this Mirak person. Are you fine with it? I hope you don't have any reservations. By the gods, you are beautiful.
Up for a little hunting?
Yes, indeed. But in Solstheim. Anyway, I take it that you're fine. I'll just leave you here on the table.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, yes. And yes, we are going to Solstheim. And sometimes when Arius just approaches, I think it was one of the episodes before when inside the Dwemer safe room, when he just approached her and he just found himself speechless, or kind of speechless, because she was kind of stunning. So I'd have to say that he is very attracted to Lydia. He really finds her endearing, and who knows, maybe that will blossom eventually. Maybe if someday he feels that he is not going to die in his mission, he may be thinking of other things and build other things or something. You know? Where is his favorite place? Where would he retire or live out the rest of his day? Nicholas, lots of questions, really good. His favorite place is Whiterun so far, because this is a place where he is most welcome. He defended the place a lot. He is most accepted here. He knows the people most. And I think it's the most welcoming place, as long as you don't murder chickens. Whoa! What's going on here? What is going on here? I mean, I guess it's some sort of festival. Well, I guess we should enjoy it while we're here, eh? I think he would retire there in Breeze Home with Lydia. But there is another thing. I think I mentioned I'd want to do Hearthfire. I think if he was to live out the rest of his days, he might set up a chapel dedicated to Arkay somewhere and build it using Hearthfire. Just set up a shrine / temple, and that is probably where he would want to stay. Will he live in the college, teach restoration magic? That's another possibility, of course, but I think he'd prefer being a priest rather than as a restoration mage. And I don't think Colette Marantz is retiring anytime soon. He would never tend the Hall of the Dead or a temple. He's not that kind of priest, I think. He'd be too bored. Actually, if he sets up the chapel, of course, he'd just use it as a base of operations and just continue adventuring. So he's not really someone who just settles down. At least not yet. Maybe if he's like in his 50s, and who knows if there's anyone who actually reaches that age in Skyrim. What's his favorite food and drink? He likes stew and bread. So basically stew with a lot of meat and veggies. He dips his bread with butter into it. Bread and butter, garlic bread. That's what he loves. He absolutely loves it. And ale or wine. I think wine is what he really loves to drink. Because the family, the Valoruses, they dealt in wines. So he has a bit of a taste for wine. Can he go against Arkay's wishes? And what would have happened? He I think I've shown it in several instances that he would question some commands of Arkay, but he still carry it out. But he's never been ordered to do something that would go against his principles. I mean, and Arkay has not done that. I mean, Arkay hasn't, or probably will never, ask him to kill an innocent person, for example. And if that happened, for example, he'd be, he probably would not do it. And I am not sure what would happen. Maybe Arkay would give him the silent treatment, because he can't really directly punish him. Though Arius is not aware of that. Because the voice of Arkay has no power over him, in the sense that he cannot directly command or compel Arius to do anything. He can only command, and the influence only goes as far as because Arius is a priest who believes in him. He thinks that he is his deity. If Arius actually suddenly casts away Arkay's his love for Arkay, his loyalty to Arkay, there's pretty much nothing that Arkay can do. But that's something that has not even crossed Arius's mind. At least not yet. Which daedric prince does he most fear or respect during all of his travels? Well, we've seen that he has dealt with Meridia, he's dealt with Malakath, Clavicus Vile. I think for the most part, Arius is respectful of any daedric prince that he meets, pretty much because he does consider them as the anti-divines. They are the equivalent of the divines, basically. And as a priest, you have to recognize powers greater than yourself. If they are particularly evil or obnoxious, he will not hesitate to speak his mind against them, because he knows that a greater divine, or at least a divine of major power, has his back. So, yeah. He does like Meridia because they are both against undead. Okay. Thoughts on the Thalmor? Does he... Oh, well. Thalmor, of course, he hates the Thalmor. Well, why do that? He hates the Thalmor because, of course, he was a child when he saw the Aldmeri Dominion torch most of Cyrodiil. He does not like them. Thankfully, because of his years of growing up, being around different people, he does not have any particular bias or hatred towards elves. He is a bit wary of other races, but I think he's demonstrated, he is very open-minded. He is very tolerant of other people, whether they're human, elven, or of beast race. Because he is a very good person. At heart, he is a decent person, even if he's a bit crazy. Does he like music? He's okay with music, not particularly good at it. He does not have a good singing voice. He cannot play an instrument to save his life. If he didn't follow Arkay, who would he follow? Well, we can probably he might be. You could have become a vigilant, maybe. And in another world, maybe if we did this playthrough another way, we might have started out as a vigilant of Stendarr. But I just find them not that great. Or I think I actually did do or start off a vigilant playthrough with a vigilant character a very long time ago with my older PC. It was kind of cool. But I just never really went further with it. I carried out the first couple of quests. I cleared out a fort with level 1, 2, or 2, a second level character. He started out at the Hall of the Vigilance, which of course would lead him eventually to Dawnguard and such, whatever. But that's not here or there. Anyway, I think that's it with the questions. Not a lot, but a lot, but not too many of you asked, which is okay because we're almost at an hour. Now, our final words with Arius here to close out our video. Arius is a conflux. He is a confluence of the divines. We can pretty much say. He was born with the blood of dragons, a gift of Akatosh. And he is being guided by an aspect of Arkay, the god of life and death, the god of burials, and the enemy of all necromancers. And he is being directed to a mission that will bring him up against perhaps the most dangerous necromancer in all of Mundus, in all of Tamriel, and that is, of course, Alduin. Because that is what Alduin is, basically. He is a necromancer. He is raising dragons from the dead. And he is the single most dangerous enemy in all of creation, whose goal is to destroy the afterlife. And I think that pretty much puts him in the sights of Arkay being the most dangerous public enemy number 1 of all time. And that is why Arius here is on his mission. He has to somehow work his way through the realms of Tamriel, fight his way through Skyrim, become powerful enough to find and destroy the undead servants of the dragons, who would have become their pillars on Skyrim to take control of the people. To eliminate them would weaken Alduin's plans, perhaps, or at least delay what he is trying to carry out, or maybe even open the way to Arius here reaching Alduin. And somehow this lowly priest must eventually confront the greatest evil, the greatest darkness that is plaguing the land, and somehow pierce it with the light of his faith and the light of his, the light of his spells. And that's why they call him Lightwielder. And I think that's where we will end our special video here on Lightwielder. And from here on, we are going to continue his journey. And we actually have reached with episode 100 a bit of a milestone. Because with the death of Ragot of Farlhost, Arius here has defeated all 7 of the prime dragon priests on Skyrim. The last one, Nakreen, cannot be reached unless we further the main quest. I think that's something that Arius will have to recognize or realize very, very soon. In any case, the adventure will continue from here on, and hopefully, who knows, maybe we'll reach another 100 episodes. We'll keep on going as long as people want to see more of Arius here, or at least until he has still stories to tell. But that is something to think about in the future. For now though, this has been Mark the Lone Gamer with Aries Valorus and Lucian Flavius, and we will return to Skyrim in the next video.